Hi guys, I hope you are enjoying going through the life of Jesus. I'm certainly having a great time doing it myself. Last Sunday, we saw a great scene in the Gospel of Luke where Jesus challenges people to follow him. It began with a very broad invitation as Jesus was teaching the crowds out in a boat, teaching the Word of God to them, talking about who God is and who they are and how relationship with him works. But then we saw the story turn and get very personal. It becomes a personal invitation as the story goes on. And Peter initiates the story with Peter. He asks Peter, a professional fisherman, to put out his net into deep water after a night of fishing all night and catching nothing. And you can imagine Peter's probably thinking, I'm the fisherman, you're the carpenter, I know how to fish, and there's no fish out there. But yet, at Jesus' invitation, he relents and they go out into deep water. And of course, you know how the story ends. They catch a massive amount of fish. And in the midst of that miracle, Peter realizes just who it is who has been inviting him to follow. It's none other than God himself. And so Peter immediately becomes reverent before Jesus, and he humbles himself before Jesus, and he feels shame before Jesus. And he says, go away, God, go away from me. I am a sinful man. And the response of Jesus is amazing to Peter. Jesus says this, he says, Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people. And of course, Simon goes on to be one of the apostles and the leader of the apostles. Really, it's a story of Jesus initiating with a person to leave the unfruitful parts of their life behind and make God the center of their life and watch God take them on an amazing adventure. The story is in the gospel, not just to tell us about Peter. The story is there to tell us about ourselves. God gives us the same invitation to leave what we've built our life around and to follow him. As you discuss this parable, this story, this week in your groups, maybe if you're willing to be a little vulnerable, share a little bit. What are the things that stand between you and leaving everything to follow Jesus? What are you most afraid of that you might lose or that God might ask you to do? It's a story where we find all of our lives, and it's a challenging story, yet a very, very gracious and inviting story. Enjoy your time. Okay guys, as we push forward in the life of Jesus, this next week we're going to be in John's Gospel. We're going to be in chapters 3 and 4. We're going to see two characters that really speak to the breadth and the detail of what a relationship with God involves. The first story involves a religious teacher named Nicodemus. Look through the story, look for the details, look how the interaction progresses. But really what you're going to see in that story is that Jesus is telling us that everyone, no matter who you are, what your background is, your education, your economic level, everyone needs to have a personal relationship with God. There's no exceptions there. And then the second story, completely different character with a Samaritan woman who has a very troubled past and finds herself in a lot of disadvantaged situations. Look for the details in that story, but what you're going to find is Jesus says how in that story, really everyone can have access to a relationship with God. It doesn't matter about your background. It doesn't matter about the difficulties you've had. Everybody has access to a relationship with God. Enjoy exploring these two stories.